At 68 years old, my legs stopped feeling like my own. Something as simple as getting up from a chair, something as natural as walking to the kitchen, felt like climbing a mountain. And I remember thinking, is this just how it is now? My name is Robert Allen. I'm 70 years old now. And about 2 years ago, my body started sending me signals I was not ready to hear. My legs, both of them, started feeling heavy, weak, like the strength had just quietly slipped away while I wasn't paying attention. In the mornings, it was the worst. I'd wake up, and just swinging my legs over the side of the bed felt like effort. Standing up, I had to grip the nightstand. I used to walk every evening, just around the block, nothing fancy, but it was mine. Then one evening, I got halfway down the driveway, and my legs just felt like they'd give out. I turned around and went back inside. I didn't tell anyone. That was the part that hurt the most, not the weakness, the silence, the shame of it. My grandchildren would ask, "Grandpa, can you come play outside?" And I'd smile and say, "Maybe later, buddy." Maybe later became my answer for everything. I stopped going to the grocery store alone. I stopped going to church some Sundays. I stopped being me. And the fear was always there, quietly whispering, what if this gets worse? What if I fall? What if I can't get back up? One morning, I just sat there, no phone, no TV, just me and this quiet and the sunrise. And something shifted. I thought about my father. He made it to 84, active until the end. And he always said, "Robert, the body follows the mind. You stop trying, the body stops too." I hadn't been trying. I'd been waiting to feel better before I started doing something. But maybe I had it backwards. Maybe I needed to start doing something to feel better. So I made a decision. Nothing dramatic, no big announcement, just a quiet promise to myself. I will build a simple daily routine, and I will stick with it. And I want to share that routine with you today. Because if you're over 60 and you're feeling like I did, I want you to know you are not alone, and it is not too late. I wake up around 6:30 every morning now. The first thing I feel is still that stiffness in my knees, in my hips, in my lower back. That hasn't completely disappeared. But here's what I learned. You don't fight the stiffness. You gently ask it to leave. So the very first thing I do before anything else is sit on the edge of my bed for 2 full minutes. I breathe slowly. I roll my ankles. I flex my feet up and down, just waking the joints up, saying good morning to the body. Then I drink a full glass of warm water, not cold, warm. It's such a small thing, but it helps me feel settled, helps with digestion. And my doctor always said hydration matters more as we age. Then I head to the kitchen, and this is where I started making 2 small but meaningful changes to my morning. The first thing I started adding to my warm morning water was a small amount of Moringa powder. Now, I was skeptical at first, but Moringa is packed with nutrients, vitamins, minerals, and natural plant compounds. Many seniors use it for natural energy and overall nourishment. I started with just half a teaspoon mixed into warm water. No dramatic taste, but after a few weeks, I noticed I felt more alert in the mornings, less foggy. Not a dramatic change, but a gentle, real one. The second thing I added was ashwagandha. My doctor mentioned that stress and poor sleep can actually contribute to physical weakness in older adults. The body needs rest to repair muscle. Ashwagandha helped me settle into better sleep, and better sleep meant I woke up feeling slightly less beaten down every morning. These weren't magic fixes, please hear me on that, but combined with everything else I changed,
They became part of a routine that helped me feel more like myself.
At around 7:15, I go outside for what I call my intention walk. Not a power walk, not a workout, just a walk. The goal isn't speed. The goal is movement. The goal is telling my body, we're still doing this. I start with 5 minutes, just 5, and I came back home. The first week, that was enough. I didn't push. I didn't try to be the person I was at 50. That version of me was wonderful, but that's not who I'm working with now. I'm working with 70-year-old Robert. And 70-year-old Robert walks slowly, breathes carefully, and comes home before his knees start complaining. And you know what I realized on those slow walks? I'd been overcomplicating everything. I'd been waiting to feel strong enough to exercise, but the walking itself was what would help me get stronger. I had it backwards the whole time. When I got back inside, I'd sit in my kitchen chair and do about 10 minutes of gentle chair exercises. I found these through a senior wellness video. Simple movements, nothing that puts stress on the joints. The first one, seated leg lifts. Sitting tall, I'd slowly lift one leg, hold for 3 seconds, then lower it gently. Then the other side, 10 repetitions on each leg. It sounds almost too easy, but after years of not using those muscles, those first few days, I could feel every single one of them waking up. The second one, toe taps. Still seated, I'd alternate tapping my feet on the floor, like a very slow march. This gets the blood moving in the lower legs, helps with circulation. Third, seated calf raises. Feet flat on the floor, I'd slowly raise up onto my toes, hold, then lower, over and over. Simple, safe, surprisingly effective. These exercises weren't dramatic. They weren't going to make me an athlete, but they were rebuilding something, a connection between my mind and my legs, a trust that hadn't been there in a while. By 8 o'clock, I'm ready for breakfast, and I keep it simple, always. 2 scrambled eggs, protein for the muscles, 1 slice of whole grain toast, easy on the stomach, a small bowl of oatmeal with a handful of blueberries for the heart, the gut, and honestly, because it feels good, and a cup of coffee, because I'm 70 years old and I'm not giving up my morning coffee. Eating a proper breakfast was something I'd gotten lazy about. Some mornings I'd just have coffee and call it done. But the body needs fuel, especially older bodies. Muscle doesn't repair itself on coffee alone.
After breakfast, I take 3 supplements. All 3 were suggested by my doctor, and many seniors use them. First, vitamin D. My doctor told me that a huge number of older adults are deficient in vitamin D, and vitamin D plays a real role in muscle function and bone strength. After my blood work, she put me on a daily supplement. Second, calcium. Again, my doctor's recommendation. As we age, the bones need more support. Calcium helps maintain that. I take it with vitamin D because the two work well together. Third, vitamin B12. Many seniors, especially those over 65, have trouble absorbing B12 naturally, and low B12 can actually cause weakness, fatigue, and unsteadiness in the legs. It was one of the first things my doctor checked. Please, if you haven't had your vitamin levels checked recently, ask your doctor. It was one of the most useful conversations I've had. The late morning and early afternoon, that's my slower time. I've learned not to fight my body's natural rhythm. If I feel like resting, I rest, without guilt, without feeling like I've failed. I might read for an hour, a history book, or sometimes a novel. I used to think sitting still was wasted time. Now I see it as recovery time. Around noon, I'll do a few gentle neck rolls, shoulder shrugs, just keeping the blood flowing without overdoing it. And I make sure to drink another full glass of water. Staying hydrated, it's one of the simplest, most underrated things a senior can do for their body. Lunch is usually around 12:30. I keep it light but nourishing. A bowl of vegetable soup, homemade or from a good low-sodium can. A small chicken breast or a piece of fish. Some steamed vegetables, broccoli, carrots, whatever I have. No heavy carbs in the afternoon. I learned the hard way. A big lunch makes the body feel sluggish, and sluggish is not what we're going for here. Sometimes I'll have a small apple or a handful of grapes after. Simple, satisfying. About twice a week in the early afternoon, I go to the community pool. Water changed everything for me. You see, in the water, your weight isn't fully your weight. The buoyancy takes the pressure off your joints. You can move your legs in ways that feel impossible on land. I don't swim laps. I walk in the water, back and forth across the shallow end, slowly, just for 20 or 25 minutes. The resistance of the water works the muscles gently, and when I step back out onto dry land, something always feels slightly different, slightly more alive. On the days I don't go to the pool, I'll do a second short walk around the block, maybe 10 minutes now instead of 5. Progress, but patient progress. My favorite part of the day is the evening. Around 5:30, I make myself a cup of chamomile tea or warm lemon water, and I sit on the porch. I watch the neighborhood slow down, the kids coming home from school, the neighbors walking their dogs, life continuing. And during those evenings, in the early days of my routine, I started noticing things, small things. The walk to the porch felt a little easier than the day before. I hadn't gripped the countertop when I stood up after dinner. My knees didn't ache as much when I sat back down. Now, none of this was miraculous. None of it happened overnight, but it was real, and real was enough.
Dinner at 6:30, and I keep it simple. A piece of baked salmon or grilled chicken, some roasted sweet potato, a green salad with olive oil and a little lemon. Light, easy to digest, nothing too heavy, because a heavy dinner disturbs sleep, and sleep, as I've learned, is where the body does its quiet repair work. By 8:30, I start winding down. No screens. I know, that's easier said than done. But the phone goes face down on the dresser, the TV turns off, I read a few pages, or just sit quietly. I do 3 gentle stretches before bed, a seated hamstring stretch, a gentle hip flexor stretch, and what I call the ankle alphabet, drawing the letters of the alphabet with your foot while lying down. Strange, but oddly soothing. Then, a moment of gratitude. I've gotten into the habit of naming 3 things before I close my eyes. 3 things from the day that I'm grateful for. Some nights it's big things, some nights it's small. Last Tuesday it was, the sunshine was nice, the soup was good, and I walked to the mailbox and back without holding on to anything. That last one, I sat with that one for a while. After about 10 days of this routine, something shifted. Not in a movie magic way, not some morning where I woke up and everything was perfect, but in a quiet, honest way. I noticed I was standing up from my chair without thinking about it, just standing, the way I used to. The morning stiffness was still there, but it faded faster. By the time I finished my warm water and my Moringa, I already felt more ready for the day. My balance improved. I could feel it. Less wobbling when I turned around quickly in the kitchen. Less fear when walking on uneven ground outside. After 2 weeks, I walked around the entire block. The whole block. I know that might sound small to some of you, but for me, standing at the end of that block, breathing the cool morning air, knowing my legs had carried me there without giving up, that was everything. I called my daughter that morning. First time in months I called her with good news about how I was feeling. And last month, I went to the park with my grandchildren. I sat on the bench, yes, but I was there, present, not behind a window watching, there. My grandson held my hand as we walked from the parking lot to the playground, and when he looked up at me and said, "Grandpa, you're walking fast today." I had to laugh. Fast, he said, fast. This man who 2 months ago was gripping a nightstand just to stand up?
If you're over 60, if your legs feel heavy in the morning, if you're holding onto walls and countertops and armrests just to get through the day, I want you to hear this. You have not run out of time. Small daily habits, consistent, patient, gentle, they can make a real difference. Not a dramatic overnight transformation, but a real, honest, sustainable improvement. You don't need a gym membership. You don't need expensive equipment. You don't need to be young. You need warm water in the morning. You need a short walk. You need to sit in a chair and lift your legs 10 times. You need to eat breakfast. You need to sleep. And you need to give yourself the grace to start small, because small is where everything begins. My legs still aren't perfect. They may never be what they were at 50, but they carried me to the park last week, and they'll carry me somewhere again tomorrow. That's not nothing. That's everything. Thank you for spending this time with me today. If this helped even one person, if it gave even one person the courage to take that first slow, careful step, then it was worth sharing. Take care of yourself. You deserve to. If this routine helped you or someone you love, share it and leave a comment below. What small habit changed your day?